Hello everyone. Few days back we were discussing about El Nino, in fact Super El Nino, and we were discussing how Super El Nino is gonna result in drought kind of situation in India. But what happened in the last 1 week that we have seen almost a flood like situation in multiple parts of India. The rainfall was so severe that it has resulted in flood like situation in multiple areas, landslides in multiple areas. So nature can be unpredictable, like the examination for which you are preparing, unpredictable service commission. So like UPSC, weather can also be unpredictable. So today we will be talking about a very important topic, which is landslides. Before I start, I'd like to just give you a brief about the basics of geographical studies. When we study the basics of geographical studies, we have to study about force. Yes, we do have to study about force. So when we study about force, from the geographical context, we read about the endogenic forces and the exogenic force. Yes. And when somebody asks what is endogenic force, we respond by saying that endogenic force, or let's endogenic forces, are those forces which emanate from the interiors of the earth. Yes, right? Which emanate from the interiors of the earth. And when somebody asks you, what is the reason behind the endogenic force, you outrightly answer that the responsibility of endogenic force creation lies on 3 to 4 factors. Namely, what are the 4 factors? First, the primordial heat. Primordial heat means the heat present inside the earth from the beginning of time. So it is the heat energy which is there inside the earth from the beginning of time. Then you say that it is the rotational and tidal friction, again responsible for generation of heat, and that heat is trying to escape, resulting in endogenic force. And when you complete that answer, you say that the last factor responsible for endogenic force is radioactivity, again resulting in the release of heat, and that heat wants to escape, resulting in endogenic force. However, there is another aspect to the forces, the geographical forces we are studying, that is exogenic force. When we study about exogenic force, we will understand that the reason behind the exogenic force is only one, and that is the solar energy. Yes, the reason behind the exogenic force is only the solar energy, whose manifestation can be witnessed in all of this. Where? In your erosion, deposition, transportation, these examples of these landslides, mass wasting, all of it. So जब हम पढ़ रहे हैं about landslides, first we must understand what is mass wasting. What is mass wasting? Before we start analyzing landslide, we have to understand mass movements. Then only we will be able to understand what is landslide. So if somebody asks what is mass movement क्या है, तो आप क्या बताएंगे? मास मूवमेंट का मतलब यह है कि एक डाउन स्लोप मूवमेंट ऑफ वेदर्ड मटेरियल अंडर द इंपैक्ट ऑफ ग्रेविटी. सो इट इज द डाउनवर्ड मूवमेंट ऑफ both weathered material as well as non-weathered material. When you define, you can say that yes, weathered material, but non-weathered material bhi niche jate hain. They go down a slope because of gravitational pull. Many people confuse themselves by saying no, पानी के वजह से जा रहा है या किसी और कारणवश जा रहा है. नहीं. The only reason behind mass movement is that It is the gravitational attraction which is bringing the things down. Yes, it is the main driver. Yes, weathering and all aids your condition. They aid your condition. They give you help. As written in the slide, that gravity is the main driver. Yes, it is the main driver. It can result in a condition wherein if there are weathered rocks, the rocks are weathered, then it becomes easier for gravitational forces to bring those debris down the slope. So the main force here is gravitation. It's the gravitational pull which is responsible for bringing the things together and down, the down slope. The weathering weakens the rock and it promotes the movement. That is what I was telling, that it aids the mass movement. Yes, it aids the mass movement. It's not that they do not help. They help. Water and all, they will help. But the primary force behind the propeller of mass movement is gravity. So this must be in your brain, that it is gravitational pull which is responsible for mass movement. Now, again, another one which we will discuss, that why do you see mass wasting? Why do you see mass movement? It can be water, it can be earthquakes, it can be human activities, which can be which increase the instability. Let us discuss one by one. Let us discuss one by one. That water. Let us discuss about water. If there is heavy rain, what happens is maybe you see the rocks here. Let's say the down slope is removed due to excessive precipitation. Yes, when it is removed, automatically it starts falling under the effect of gravitation. So water aids mass movement. It breaks the delicate balance between the forces from up and the forces from down, which we call as isostasy, wherein these material have been remaining in a static condition. Yes, वो static condition में किसी आइसोस्टैटिक बैलेंस के तहत अपने जगह पे बैठे हुए हैं, तो ये बैलेंस टूट जाता है। बैलेंस टूट जाता है या तो ज्यादा बारिश के वजह से, या तो अर्थक्वेक के वजह से। अर्थक्वेक के वजह से भी यहां से अगर कुछ खिसक जाती है तो टोटल डेब्रिस के साथ नीचे आ जाता है। ह्यूमन एक्टिविटीज ऑल्सो, लेट्स से यू स्टार्ट माइनिंग हियर, this becomes weak. When it becomes weak, it starts falling down. You deforest, you start using it for commercial purposes. Again, the area becomes weak and there is a possibility that there will be mass movement. So what did we learn? We learned that mass movement happens under the impact of gravity, though it is aided by multiple geomorphic agents. Yes, mass movement is propelled by gravity. However, it is aided by multiple geomorphic agents. Yes, यही हमने पढ़ा. That is what heavy rainfall can cause slope saturation, which we discussed 2 minutes back. Earthquakes and volcanic activities, weak geological formation, faults and joints. That's what I told. Let's say this area is weak, somewhere in the middle of the mountain. There is a fault being generated. There is a breakage which makes the entire area vulnerable to the gravitational pull. When it makes it vulnerable to the gravitational pull, automatically it will move down and result in what? What? Mass movement. River or glacier erosion at slope base. This is another thing. Let's understand. Again, this part is getting eroded. When this part is getting eroded, again, the entire balance shifts. The balance of the mountain, of the slope, reduces. The isostatic balance, which is delicate in nature. So because of that, again, what happens? The debris or the rocks at the top, it starts falling, resulting in mass movement. यहाँ पे देखिए deforestation, I just discussed, road cutting in hills, all these things are actually disturbing the isostatic balance. जितना आप बैलेंस तोड़ेंगे नेचर का, उतना आपके ऊपर आपदाएं आएंगी. So that is why we talk about sustainable development, right? That if at all we are developing something, we have to pay some environmental cost. When we pay some environmental cost, that cost has to be minimal. So our motto has to be that developmental avenues have to be taken into consideration. What? Taking into consideration what? Environmental costs, economical costs which are sustainable in nature. है या नहीं? अगर आप ये सब करते करते पूरा पहाड़ ही धस गया तो भाई क्या मिलेगा आपको? आप एक रोड बनाते बनाते टोटल पहाड़ ही धस गया तो क्या मिलेगा आपको? कुछ मिलेगा? कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. So that is why everything has to be taken into consideration. Let's say you are building a dam, a reservoir somewhere at the top of Himalayas. These are isostatically, these are tectonically active areas. So because of that, if there is some kind of imbalance to the isostasy, what happens? It will definitely lead to a condition which will lead to multiple landslides or multiple mass wasting per se. तो इसीलिए हमारे डेवलपमेंटल एवेन्यूज इस प्रकार से होने चाहिए कि हमको ये सब चीजों को बैलेंस करना चाहिए. ठीक है? Unplanned urbanization, exactly. This is a very important point which we had forgotten. In areas like Shimla, Manali, in parts of Uttarakhand, due to tourism activities, you see multiple hotels have come up, resorts have come up on the slopes of mountains. The mountains are not equipped to handle so much of pressure. So when you start putting pressure, at some point in time, the resistance, yes, you actually, what is happening? The mountain is resisting the gravitational force. But when there is so much of pressure from top, that resistance is removed and you become vulnerable to the gravitational pull. जिस वजह से क्या होता है? पूरा का पूरा स्लोप बह जाता, which happened in 2013. Yes. So we should also start thinking about alternatives to this rampant tourism in hill areas and start thinking about other avenues of growth and development in these areas. खाली टूरिज्म के चक्कर में हम पहाड़ों को नरक की ओर लेके जा रहे हैं. So that we have to think. Yes. ओके. लैंडस्लाइड्स की तरफ जब हम, लैंडस्लाइड एक प्रकार का मास मूवमेंट है, जब हम उस पर पढ़ते हैं तो एक पहला एग्जाम्पल आता है स्लम्प. एक प्रकार का लैंडस्लाइड है जिसको हम बोलते हैं स्लम्प. देखिए ये डायग्राम पे फोकस कीजिए. लेट्स से दिस इज द स्लोप ऑफ द माउंट. यस, दिस इज द स्लोप ऑफ द माउंट. दिस पार्ट gets removed. This part gets removed. When this part gets removed, so the material from the top, it starts moving down. When it starts moving down, this material at the bottom, it starts moving backwards and it starts rotating. Yes. So while sliding down, ये इतना प्रेशर देता है इसको कि ये घूम घूम के नीचे की तरफ चले जाता है. So that is what is known as slump. You can imagine that while moving down, if this particular part is, let's say, removed, the material from the top, it starts moving down slope. When it starts moving down slope, what happens is it gives so much of pressure to the debris at the bottom that it starts rotating back and forth and then it starts moving downwards. तो इसको हम बोलते हैं slump. जब हम डेब्रिस स्लाइड की तरफ पढ़ते हैं तब क्या होता है, विदाउट एनी रोटेशन ऑटोमेटिकली ऊपर से आ जाते हैं नीचे की तरफ, उसको हम बोलते हैं डेब्रिस स्लाइड. अगर रोटेट करता है तो उसको हम बोलते हैं स्लम्प, अगर डायरेक्टली आ जाता है उसको हम बोलते हैं डेब्रिस स्लाइड. रॉक फॉल, रॉक फॉल यह है जो कि ऊपर से जो रॉक्स गिरते हैं उसको हम बोलते हैं रॉक फॉल. Yes. Next, rock slide. The rocks slide along the bedding. ऐसे starts sliding. अगर डायरेक्ट गिरा तो रॉक फॉल, अगर ऐसे आता है तो वो क्या है, रॉक स्लाइड. अगर बारिश बहुत हुआ है, if there is lot of rainfall, if there is lot of rainfall, the soil becomes saturated with water. When it becomes saturated with water, what happens is the water along with the debris, it starts moving down. That is known as flow. Yes, that is known as flow. Similarly, यहां पे स्लाइड कर रहा है, अगर ये डेब्रिस ऊपर से गिरे डायरेक्ट तो उसको हम बोलेंगे डेब्री फॉल. तो ये सारे डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ लैंडस्लाइड से, ऊपर से जो मास मूवमेंट होता है, जो लैंडस्लाइड होता है, वो डिफरेंट प्रकार के जो है, उसमें से ये कुछ प्रकार के हैं. नेक्स्ट, होता कहां पे है? इफ वी स्टार्ट एनालाइजिंग द लैंडस्लाइड एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट, वेयर डज दैट हैपन, देन वी विल गेट टू नो दैट they happen in the mountains. They start happening in the mountains. Yes, तो हम बात करेंगे. It was a UPSC question way back in 2013 when they had asked question about, they had asked you to compare about Western Ghats and Himalayas. Okay. When we come to the Himalayas, somebody asked, why does landslides happen in Himalaya? Let us see. They are young fold mountain. Not only are they young fold mountains, but also they are soft unconsolidated rocks of marine origin. टेथिस सी से ऊपर उठ के आए. टेथिस सी का जो सेडिमेंट्स है वही तो आपके लिए हिमालय बनाता है. यस, इट इज द सेडिमेंट्स ऑफ द टेथिस सी which have become compressed and they have formed the Himalayas. It is tectonically active. Yes, they lie on the boundary of the Indian plate as well as the Eurasian plate. इन दोनों प्लेटों के बाउंड्री पे है हिमालय. We talked that day that the Himalayas lie between the ITSZ, Indo-Tibetan Suture Zone, and Himalayan Front Fault. बीच में हिमालय है. It's a tectonically active zone. Yes. So again, that is the thing. Frequent earthquakes इसीलिए होता है क्योंकि टेक्टोनिकली एक्टिव. हाईली फ्रैक्चर्ड रॉक्स है, दे आर सॉफ्ट सेडिमेंटरी रॉक्स. तो फ्रैक्चर्ड है जो एग्जैक्टली सेडिमेंटरी एंड अनकंसोलिडेटेड डिपॉजिट्स. स्टीप स्लोप्स. यस, द सदर्न पार्ट इज एक्सट्रीमली स्टीप. द नॉर्दर्न पार्ट इज व्हाट, इट इज अ बिट जेंटल. इसीलिए जब आप पहाड़ चढ़ते हैं हिमालय तो आप नॉर्थ की तरफ से जाइए. अगर कभी आप क्या बोलते हैं उसको, माउंट एवरेस्ट चढ़ने की कोशिश करेंगे तो आप क्या करेंगे, आप यहीं से नदर्न स्लोप से ऊपर चढ़ेंगे, बिकॉज इट इज जेंटल, इट इज वेरी स्टीप. सो इट्स वेरी स्टीप मींस एनी टाइप ऑफ एक्टिविटी, एनी टाइप ऑफ वल्नरेबिलिटी means there is going to be a disaster, because it's not gentle, it's very steep and everything will fall down. Yes, and they also receive rainfall, lot of rainfall because of the monsoons. इन सारे कारणवश अभी तो हम एक्स्ट्रा पॉइंट्स भी ऐड कर सकते हैं इसमें कि lot of tourism activities, lot of construction activities, deforestation activities happening in Himalayas, which are responsible for landslides. So it is anthropogenic as well as natural factors. Both are responsible for this. Yes. Now let's come to Western Ghats. Why do you think? They're older mountains. Yes. They're escarpments. We have discussed. They have resistant rocks. Peninsular plateau का ही part है. Resistant rocks. Hard crystalline rocks. Yes. Comparatively stable geology. Yes. We discussed. It is comparatively stable because it is away from the tectonic boundaries, the plate boundaries. In सारों से काफी दूर. But it receives lot of rainfall. Lot of rainfall may lead to that vulnerable condition wherein maybe certain weak rocks are eroded, they are washed away, resulting in bringing the entire slope down. It makes it vulnerable. Yes, and these are extremely humid areas. So there is a scope of weathering also. Weather हो क्या, weathered particles बहुत ज़्यादा रह सकते हैं, तो इनका भी गिरना बहुत ज़्यादा possibilities. Yes, plus human activities. The human activities I just discussed. तो यहाँ पे भी natural as well as anthropogenic reasons हैं इनके landslides होने के. No, some recent examples. See, we have had in Uttarakhand, we have had in Kerala, we have had in Bombay and Pune, we have in Uttarakhand. देखिए हर जगह. So you have got examples from both Himalayas as well as where? Western Ghats. तो दोनों ही vulnerable है. In spite of different geographies, in spite of different geologies, in spite of different climatic condition, both are vulnerable. Yes, the mountains are very delicate. You have to keep them like babies. Babies are delicate, right? You have to keep them well protected. Same with mountains. थोड़ा भी आप इधर उधर कीजिए, nature starts showing. Now these are all the effects of landslides. Loss of life, displacement and injuries, river blockage, flash flood. Flash floods may lead to disaster, which happened in 2013 in Uttarakhand. Landslides की वजह से लोग तो मरते हैं, डैमेज तो होता है, बट मैक्सिमम डैमेज ये फ्लैश फ्लड की वजह से होता है. हैबिटेट डिस्ट्रक्शन, सॉइल इरोजन एंड इंक्रीज सेडिमेंटेशन, ये भी होता है. पूरा टॉप सॉइल रिमूव हो जाता है, रेंडरिंग द सॉइल इनफर्टाइल, unproductive for a generation. It takes a lot of time again to revive itself. Economic activities भी बहुत damage, road and railway damage, infrastructure destruction, tourism and agricultural losses, सारा ही loss है. Yes, social losses भी है. So these are the things which needs to be avoided so that these aspects are avoided. हमको बाकी चीजों को अवॉइड करना है, प्रिवेंट करना है, सो दैट लैंडस्लाइड्स के ये इफेक्ट्स को हम अवॉइड करें. देखिए मिटिगेशन टेक्निक्स, दीज आर सम ऑफ द टेक्निक्स. यस, वी कॉल इट एज गेबियन रिटेनिंग वॉल डिजाइन गाइड. इसमें आप क्या करते हैं, रिटेनिंग वॉल्स बनाते हैं सो दैट अगर पत्थर आए तो वो वहीं पे रुक जाए. यस, रॉक बोल्टिंग, टेरेसिंग. टेरेसिंग करने से क्या होता है, टेरेसिंग इज दिस, यहां से गिरा, यहां से गिरा, यहां से गिरा, so it gets lot of breakages while coming down, so inherently it reduces the velocity. Yes, next, now what do you do non-structurally? When you start studying about landslides, the first thing that is important is you have to do the hazard zonation कि भाई कहां पे possibility सबसे ज्यादा है, कहां पे पॉसिबिलिटी कम है, तो उस हिसाब से हमारा प्रिपेयर्डनेस भी उसी हिसाब से होता है। देखिए, वल्नरेबिलिटी मैपिंग अगर आप करते हैं तो वल्नरेबिलिटी मैपिंग के हिसाब से ही आपका रेस्पॉन्स क्रिएट किया जाता है। सो इफ यू नो अ पर्टिकुलर एरिया इज एक्सट्रीमली वल्नरेबल, mitigating strategies will be developed in a certain manner. If a particular area is not that vulnerable, then mitigating strategies will be created accordingly. तो इसीलिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट आपके लिए है कि आप मैपिंग कीजिए, अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम्स बनाइए। यस, नाउ एफोरेस्टेशन एंड रेनफॉल मॉनिटरिंग। रेनफॉल मॉनिटरिंग तो आपके लिए आईएमडी करेगा, बट एफोरेस्टेशन की बात मैं बोल रहा हूं। When we learn about, let's say, the concept of hill area development program, the first thing that is taught is, सबसे ऊपर आप क्या कीजिए कि भाई आप सोशल फॉरेस्ट्री कीजिए, so that the isostasy is maintained. उसके नीचे आप हॉर्टिकल्चर कीजिए, अगेन पेड़ लगा रहे हैं स्लोप में, हॉर्टिकल्चर कीजिए, अगेन इट इज फॉरेस्ट। उसके नीचे आप क्या कीजिए, स्टेप फार्मिंग कीजिए, सो दैट आपका पूरा स्लोप जो है ऊपर से धसेगा नहीं, बिकॉज इट इज प्रोटेक्टेड बाय द ट्रीज। That is what is amazing. That is why whenever you talk about, when you write answers about this, you always make this diagram, write these things, that ऊपर social forestry होना चाहिए, फिर horticulture होना चाहिए, फिर step farming होना चाहिए. Yes. Regulating construction, strict land use planning, which is what I discussed, that in areas we have to regulate tourism, we have to regulate urbanization. If we do not regulate these things, there is increase in all these activities, human activities, it will inherently lead you to hell. तो ये सब चीजों में हमारा ध्यान होना चाहिए। सरकार इस पे सबसे ज्यादा काम करनी चाहिए, स्पेशली गवर्नमेंट्स ऑफ हिमाचल, जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, उत्तराखंड, अरुणाचल प्रदेश। यू सॉ दोज वीडियोस, राइट? पूरा पूरा मतलब बह गया है विथ लैंड। So we have to make it. It is not the nature which is going to protect itself. It is you who has to protect. Yes, next. So when you write an answer, if there is a question, there was a question that landslides are more frequent in Himalayas because they're young fold mountains. Chalo, theek hai. When you write an answer regarding landslides, you mention about the vulnerability of Himalayas, you mention about the vulnerability of Western Ghat. Now, this is what is important. You have to write about the National Landslide Risk Management Strategy of 2019. ये आपके आंसर में श्योरली होना चाहिए। जियोलॉजिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया आपके लिए हजार्ड मैपिंग करती है, तो उनके रोल के बारे में भी लिखिए। ये अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम किस हिसाब से काम कर रहा है इंडिया में, इसके बारे में लिखिए। फिर उसके बाद आप रिस्क कैसे रिड्यूस कर रहे हैं, जो हम थोड़ी देर पहले डिस्कस किए हैं, उसके बाद। सो दीज पॉइंट्स हैव टू बी देयर इन योर आंसर, अदरवाइज नोबडी विल गिव यू मार्क्स। सी द नेशनल, मैं आपको इसलिए दो चार लाइनें मैं बता भी देता हूं कि आपको इसमें लिखना क्या है। द नेशनल लैंडस्लाइड रिस्क मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रेटेजी, it is prepared by whom? The Geological Survey of India. It is the responsible department for making this particular management strategy. What do they give you? They give you hazard mapping, zonation and monitoring. Monitoring भी वही लोग करते हैं। Yes, early warning system भी वही देते हैं। Capacity building, research, technology, सारा कुछ वही करते हैं। And they also give you future land use. How you have to use these lands. जोनेशन होने के बाद एक पर्टिकुलर जोन में लैंड यूज कैसे होना चाहिए, यह भी जियोलॉजिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया आपको बताती है, विथ इमरजेंसी प्रिपेयर्डनेस। सो इट इज टाइम दैट वी लिसन टू आवर साइंटिफिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस एंड आवर साइंटिस्ट्स एंड देन स्टार्ट बिल्डिंग आवर ओन what areas. Yes. Next, the role of GSI. I'll just tell you the GSI is under the Ministry of Mines, headquartered at Kolkata. Yes, it is divided into, let's say, they have 6 regions: the north, the south, the east, the west, the central, and the northeastern. So यहाँ पे ये कर, other than that they have specialized directorates like the marine and coastal division. इसमें इनका काम होता है कोल पे. Yes, and they also work on your what, this Antarctica things. So Geological Survey of India is very much apt in giving you all. It conducts landslide hazard zonation mapping, identifies and monitors landslide prone areas, carries out geological investigation after major events. अभी भी देखिए वायनाड में करेगा वो. Provide scientific inputs for infrastructure planning in hilly regions. That is what I have been telling. And support state governments in mitigation and disaster risk reduction. तो रोल ऑफ जीएसआई को भी आप अपने आंसर में जोड़ के रखिए. Yes. Now I hope all of you understood the concept of landslides. हमें किस प्रकार से इन सारी चीजों को अडॉप्ट करना चाहिए, किस प्रकार से इन सब चीजों को आंसर लिखना चाहिए, क्या क्या अपने आंसर्स में पुट इन करना चाहिए. So that is what we have to understand. ठीक है. In case of any doubts, you can very well contact, and in case of any other thing, you have our number, you have our contact details. You can very well contact us so that we can help you in your preparation. Thank you.